pottery friends. Today I want to teach you how to make things not go boom and explode in the kiln. You've probably heard of that happening before, and it's a definite possibility, but only if you don't know how to wedge. Wedge is the very first step in making anything out of clay. It's basically kneading it just like you knead bread dough, except unlike kneading dough for bread, you want to get the air bubbles out, not put them in. Now, all clay, whether it's just a little pinch pot or whether it's something fancy like this, starts as a lump of clay, and that's why I call it mud and magic. And I want to teach you the very first beginning steps on how to make objects such as this. And like everything that's magic, it's really no mystery once you know how to do it. So usually when you buy clay, and I buy mine at Highwater Place, which is right in Asheville, North Carolina, it will come in a big 50-pound box. And each of those boxes has a 25-pound brick inside. You always want to make sure that it's nice and tightly closed when you're not using it, because every moment that it's exposed to the air, it will be losing a little bit of moisture and it will harden and become unworkable. So I'm going to put that one to the side, and first I'm going to show you, how do you know if you have an air bubble? Well, sometimes we work with recycled clay, because sometimes you make little projects, they may not work out, you just stuff the clay back in the bag, and when you stuff it back into the bag, it can create air bubbles. Let's see if we can find some. And all you need is one air bubble to make something go boom. Aha! There's the culprit. See those little dark specks? Right there and right there? Those are air bubbles. And if you keep those bubbles in your project will go boom in the kiln. So we do what's called wedging. That's fun. There are two ways of wedging. First one is, you want to have a nice canvas-topped table, something that's not going to stick, and you want it to be at the right height for you so that when you're wedging, you can put your hands down on the table and have your elbows straight. That way, instead of using a lot of pressure and using your muscles to do the work, you let your weight of your body do the work and you just lean into it. The first way of wedging clay is you just take your lump and you compress it to the table, and then you give it a slight turn, maybe 10%, press it, turn it up, press it, turn it up, press it, and you just keep continuing doing this. Now, when you do this several times, you'll notice it starts to make a shape like a bicycle seat or a saddle, and that's how you know you're doing it right. Now, one of the common mistakes that people do while doing this type of wedging is they press too hard, and that way, when they fold it over the next time, they're folding air bubbles into it. See that? That's going to become an air bubble, and that's going to make your piece blow up in the kiln. So when you're wedging, make sure that you do not turn it so much that it's folding. Just do a little bit at a time. That way you're pressing down into the table using your body weight, leaning in. And you're not folding in air bubbles, you're actually pushing them right out. Now there's another type of wedging which I actually prefer, which is the spiral type of wedging. It has the same effect, it gets rid of the air bubbles, and you do it on the same way with a table that's the right height for you. But the way you do this one is you put it up on its point, press it down into the table, and you're only using this hand for support. Give it a little bit of a turn, press down, a little bit of a turn, press down, a little bit of a turn, press down. And when you're doing this one correctly, it's going to give you a shape like a conch shell. It's going to have a little bit of a point, and it's going to start to have a spiral that wraps around like that. And every time you're wedging, make sure that you just do a little bit at a time, because if you don't do a little bit at a time, you're going to fold air bubbles back into your clay, and that's what you want to avoid. Now, if you're a beginner at wedging, a good thing to do is after you've wedged for 2 to 5 minutes, something like that, you want to take your clay, cut it in half, and inspect. Are there any air bubbles? I don't see any. It looks like we're doing well. Well, this may not be the most exciting part of the clay process. It's very important. Now, there's also a way, and I like to do this because I like to do things the most effective way, that you can avoid wedging very often when you're using an already wedged bag of clay fresh from the store. What I like to do is, instead of slicing off thin pieces like a stack of quarters and then mushing them together and creating air bubbles, if I just want a little bit of clay to make a mug, I'm going to cut off an entire brick, and then I'm going to quarter that brick like this. That way, I can take this piece here, pound it in the corner, and make it into a round, ready-to-throw ball without putting any air bubbles in it and without having to wedge. And we always tie up our clay when we're done so it doesn't dry out. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you when it's time to center this lump of clay. Bye.